Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode on our podcast. Today, we're pulling back the curtain for a Rheum Champions Tell All. We're joined by some incredibly amazing advocates from across the country, each living with rheumatic diseases and using their voices to champion research, awareness, and of course, change. In this heartfelt roundtable, you will hear what inspired us to step into this role and our biggest takeaways from 2025, the Rheumatology Investigators Meeting, and why community has become our greatest strength. From powerful stories to unforgettable friendships, this episode is a reminder that when patients lead, progress follows. So, hello, everyone.
Hi, good to see you.
Hello.
When we say that we are Rheum Champions, that is an initiative from this really great nonprofit organization called the Rheumatology Research Foundation. And they not only are a nonprofit that funds research to help, of course, find better treatments and potential cures and effective treatments for rheumatic diseases, they actually also help improve the workforce because, as we all know, there are long waiting lists. It's really hard to get into a rheumatologist sometimes. So they also fund initiatives to try to convince more doctors to become rheumatologists, which is really fun. So what they have done as a nonprofit is they've wanted to amplify the patient voice and then maybe start including patient stories and utilizing all of our connections on social media to help spread the word about all the great work that they're doing as well. So every year they have something called the Investigators Meeting where all of the researchers who they've funded come together and give updates on their research. And we all attended that in May of 2025 as the Rheum Champions and helped, again, share on our social media all these interesting updates. I think we could just start by introducing ourselves.
I'm Chelsea. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas, and I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis in 19. And then a couple years later, I was diagnosed with scleritis and recently was diagnosed with PCOS. This stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome, and it really affects hormones. And from what I was told, it can be due to my autoimmune disorder. I'm still learning about it. It's still a fresh diagnosis.
Hi, I am Stasha Parker. I am from the great state of Maine on the northeastern coast. I was first diagnosed with PCOS, then Hashimoto's, and eventually rheumatoid arthritis. And that's the one that really took me out of the game and set me on this path.
Hello, my name is Naya Sims. I am from Tifton, Georgia, and I was diagnosed with lupus and rheumatoid arthritis in 2012.
Hey everyone. So my name is Tanya. I was diagnosed with my first autoimmune disease when I was 12 years old, but lupus was my most recent diagnosis, which was actually even more than a decade ago, 11 years ago, in my late 20s. And I am from North Carolina and currently live here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Weaver, and in 2012, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, followed by a diagnosis of pustular psoriasis in 2017. And in 2024, I was diagnosed with alopecia areata. And I live in Washington State.
My name is Cheryl Crow. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis and gastroparesis in the year 2023. I live in the greater Seattle area, and I'm also an occupational therapist, which is just a little fun fact about me. So the first thing we wanted to, after introducing ourselves, share what was something that inspired you to share your story more publicly as a Rheum champion. That we all kind of talked about that a little bit at the conference, that there can be a little bit of trepidation the first time you start sharing publicly and on social media, especially. There can be a lot of fears about what are people going to say, and stuff like that.
I decided to start sharing my story a couple years after my diagnosis. So it was around COVID time that I was stuck at home. I had stopped working around that time just due to my autoimmune disorder and also because of COVID. So I was home for a lot of my newly diagnosis, and I had been seeing a therapist during that time, and she had encouraged me to try to find a support group for others that are on the same journey as me, and I couldn't find any locally, obviously, because of COVID and because it is rare to find in-person support groups for chronic illness. And so she encouraged me to share my story on my social media. And at first, I was very hesitant to do that because I didn't know what it was going to look like, if people were going to be kind, just the typical fears when starting to put your life and personal things on for the public to criticize or comment on. The first two people that I followed was Cheryl and Another Day with RA, Allie. Those were my very first two people that I followed that had RA, and they really encouraged me to just continue sharing my story. So that kind of pushed me into finding Meg, which is it's Meg Fitness. Through Meg, I found Jenny, and then it snowballed after that, which is nice because now I have like a little community of people that I've gotten to know these past few years. And through all of these wonderful people, I was able to connect with the Rheum Champions and apply to become a Rheum Champion. Jenny encouraged me to do that and share my story there. And then after that, I was able to be invited to be a part of the investigators meeting. So that's kind of how it all happened. It's exciting.
I think it's so beautiful that your doctor encouraged you to share your story, because I often hear the opposite. The doctors say, don't go on social media, you're going to get scared, right?
Yes, yes, I am grateful for her because she said, with boundaries, we're going to share your story, but also let's make sure that we're finding people that are encouraging and that will help you to grow through this season and not scare you. It really did take a little bit of time to find the right people for me. And once I did, they are so inviting and introduced me to other people. It actually, honestly, was very helpful.
I actually started out not really sharing my story. I had been doing a lot of research and trying a lot of different health changes. And I started out by just writing about good health, things that you could do to make yourself feel better no matter what was happening with you. And then a really good friend of mine suggested that maybe I should share my own personal story because she told me I was inspiring. And I didn't believe her at all. But I started sharing my story anyway because I really enjoy writing and I find it very therapeutic to write down what's going on. And from there, I was invited to contribute my story in Keeping It Real with Arthritis. Invited to join the Rheum Champion project when it launched. The person who created it reached out, and that was really great. And invited to join Impact with Rheum Research kind of right around the same time when I looked at what they did and saw that they helped us not just by doing the research, which I find exciting as a scientist myself, but also that they have the aim to improve access to care. I knew I was immediately sold. I had to be involved with this organization.
Well, as I mentioned before, I was diagnosed in 2012 and I was 12 years old. Me and my family had to drive from Tifton, which is a rural community, to Augusta, which was about 3 hours away for me to receive treatment. And that's what started my path of like advocacy and speaking out and telling about my journey. I seen that the Rheumatology Research Foundation had reposted Cheryl and Jenny's videos from the conference last year, from the investigators meeting last year. I was like, how do I apply? 2023 at that time, I don't think like there were any initiatives going on. So a few months ago, I received an email that I was invited to come to the Seattle conference, and I was just so excited to be able to share my voice with others again, because I already done it at previous like ACRs, the ACR conference or the American College of Rheumatology conference about 3 years in a row now. I've been doing that. So it was exciting to see rheumatology from a different perspective at the investigators meeting and see how researchers are actually presenting their research.
I was diagnosed quite a while ago, but I had already been working as a dietitian for quite a few years when I was diagnosed. So rather, my story wasn't to find support, unfortunately, which I should have done. It is always a good idea to find support. But I figured, okay, well, at least I have a master's degree in this field and experience. I'm going to figure out the diet and the lifestyle. And then I did figure out what helped me feel a lot better. So then I kind of put the lupus on the back burner. Okay, I've got that figured out. I can live my life and not worry about it so much. But several years later, I spent probably too much time online on span of a couple months and realized, and there were so many people with lupus that were really struggling, that were sharing their stories and felt awful. And using my background as a dietitian and also my lived experience as someone with many autoimmune diseases, I finally had the light bulb moment of, wait a minute, I can help a lot of other people with the knowledge that I figured out, the research that already exists, but people just don't know how to implement it in their lives, because you can read a research study, but unless you're a dietitian, you have a background in science, many people would find it difficult to start putting it in place. So that was what inspired me to share my story and also create my private practice that focuses on autoimmune disease. And then when it came to becoming a Rheum Champion, I saw it as an opportunity to continue to spread awareness. Obviously, the Rheumatology Research Foundation is doing so much good, not only for helping rheumatologists or medical doctors become rheumatologists in underserved areas, but the research itself is serving everyone in every community related to rheumatology, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, and so many other conditions. It really felt like a wonderful place to continue to use my voice and help others.
So my story is a little bit like Tanya. I wasn't joining for support because I'd already gone through everything. I wanted to use my voice to support others. But I love the fact that it introduced me to amazing people like you. And I joined in Cheryl's Room to Thrive, even though I didn't necessarily need it, but I liked being part of the community and being another voice of support and connection. I've met so many incredible people. That's how I met Chelsea, because I do a support group with Megan from It's Meg's Fitness. It kind of started on a whim one day. I was like, hey, there's people out there that are like me that could use support and love. Why not me? I can do that. Next thing you know, all these opportunities of ways to advocate and to share our voice. Rheum Champion was one of them. And, they dropped into my DMs one day and said, hey, we think you'd be a perfect fit for this. What do you think? I was like, wow, I feel honored. How can I help support your mission more? And now I've gotten to attend a couple of things, and it's amazing. It's amazing to see that they really genuinely care and want to help support us and see us doing better. And they're okay with sharing what they're working on with us as well. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Turning our pain into purpose, which I don't take credit for that phrase. I heard it once, but I just love it. It's so poetic. So thank you, whoever coined that phrase. How I got into sharing my story publicly, actually, it's probably so random. I don't know if there's anyone else who started their arthritis advocacy journey this way, but I had actually made a video for a swing dance video contest. And I was thinking, what's my unique angle with swing dancing? Well, I had gotten diagnosed 6 years earlier with rheumatoid arthritis. And so I was like, let me make a video about dancing with arthritis, like some of the things I do to make sure that I can still protect my joints while dancing. Well, little did I know that this video would be forwarded to the Arthritis Foundation, and they would reach out to me and say, hey, you look like somebody who enjoys, sharing their voice. And they asked me to speak at a couple events, and one thing led to another. And here I am now. And it's just, I think initially I was mostly afraid when I was thinking about sharing publicly. I was afraid that people would criticize my treatment choices, which has happened. All the things I was afraid of have happened. But the thing that makes it all worth it is that the positives outweigh the negatives so much when it comes to sharing your story. I have people saying, why are you taking those toxic medications or something, if I do an injection video. But then I also have, for every one comment I have saying that or saying you shouldn't take that, you should just do diet or something else or yoga, there's like 20 people who will say, oh my gosh, I was so scared to do my first injection. And then I saw your video and I felt like I could do it too. So anyway, it's taken me so many wonderful places, and becoming involved in the Rheumatology Research Foundation. Honestly, I feel terrible saying this, but I had been a member of the American College of Rheumatology and Association of Rheumatology Professionals. And whenever I go to the conference, I would see this like rheumatology research thing. I always just kind of walked by it because I was like, I'm going to go see something else. Like in my head, I was like, well, that's for the doctors. Like, that's not like, they're working on that stuff. But in my head, I wasn't, what am I going to do? And even though I'm an occupational therapist, it's really, the foundation really gives grants to doctors. And then I realized, they need help with their public relations sometimes, because researchers are not, as we all found, are not always gifted at these sharing of their stories. Some of them are. Some of them were amazing, dynamic presenters. And others, they're so cerebral and amazing in their own way. I think we, as patients who are used to maybe capturing people's attention and providing patient education online, they were actually looking for help from us to help spread the word and get other people interested in the foundation. So long story short, that's how I got involved. But what keeps me involved is the community, is meeting all of you, meeting the researchers and the staff at the foundation. I feel like I'm like making a commercial for them right now, but seriously, they're like the nicest, hardworking, most passionate people. And I've worked with a lot of different groups and nonprofits. I'm not comparing. I know I'm not playing favorites, but I'm just saying that I appreciate the Rheumatology Research Foundation a lot. But back to everyone else, because this is a panel, not just me on my soapbox. What is one of the most important takeaways from the 2025 investigators meeting? And it can be something that you learned maybe from the research updates or just a memory that you'll take with you.
Yes, so to kind of circle back on what you were saying about the people that work for the foundation, I genuinely feel they are so compassionate with everyone that they meet. At least I felt that way at the investigators meeting because it was my very first rheumatology event that I've attended, so I didn't know what to expect when going. So I was very nervous when I first got to Seattle, but once I was able to meet everyone that is a part of the foundation and I saw how much they truly cared and are passionate about rheumatology. I don't want to say change my perspective, but it encouraged me and it made me feel I was where I needed to be to help bring change to rheumatology and bring awareness to it. I felt like the foundation does a great job with that. And also the fact that there were so many rheumatologists in that room that are sharing their research and how they're impacting the rheumatology world was encouraging to me and something that I took away from. I left the event feeling encouraged by it, and I think that is what stood out to me the most. Being able to meet my online friends in person was also a memory that I won't forget. Like, it's just so nice to finally see everybody and just have these sweet conversations in person.
A memory that I will take away from the conference is getting to meet and know all of you. Because here in Atlanta, I don't have many rheumatology friends, like friends with, who actually deal with these rheumatic diseases every day. So getting close, forming bonds with y'all, like how we did our activities, and even learning from each of you. I know I kept tapping on Jenny during the conference, like, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? But she was teaching me so much and like learning how you all create your content or like do different things for your own brands. I feel like it was very empowering to me that I need to do better on my side. And I feel like since the conference, I've been doing a little better with actually putting advocacy stuff out there, putting rheumatology stuff on my page. Because I would do it, but not like as consistently. So I've been doing better, being more consistent. Let's hope it stays that way. And a takeaway from the conference or something that I noticed at the conference, I felt that the conference, like Cheryl said, it was more intimate. So basically, like, it was a lot different from ACR conferences. At the ACR conferences, I feel more intimidated there than I did here. I felt more like that I felt that it was more intimate and that we could actually talk to the researchers on a personal level, like how we got to interview them. They were very open about their research. And also, even when we did the event, I believe it was the second or third night when we were all just standing at the table, just chatting with the rheumatologists, like that was very nice and very intimate. And I feel like it helps us get to know the rheumatologists as people more than just a position. They were telling us life experiences and stuff. So I really appreciated how intimate the conference was.
So I did absolutely love the conference, and all of the research that was shared was so impactful because you can see the passion in the eyes of the researchers of thank you so much, the foundation, for giving me the funding so that I could pursue this question. And it ranged all over the place, but all of the main goals were to improve patient outcomes, whether it was figuring out a very, very specific part of a protein or figuring out if telehealth can be as helpful to people as an in-person appointment. They all really were so passionate about their research and absolutely loved sharing it with us. So that was wonderful. But also, I was just so impressed with the foundation and how their track record of fiscal responsibility puts them, I have the stat, in the top 0.5% of charities and in the 16th consecutive year of getting this 4-star rating for basically the money that they use is absolutely almost 100% going towards the things that they say. So there's very little waste. They really are using these donations as best as possible to help everyone.
Of course, the memories of getting to spend time with all of you can't beat that. That's incredible. I miss you all. I miss you all so much. That was just a really fun week of connection and shenanigans. I'm glad you guys put up with all of my crazy ideas. We had so much fun doing Man on the Street. I think at first, a few of them were kind of like, what? You want to do what? But some of them really got into it and had a lot of fun. Then, of course, my other thing that I want to bring up is getting to talk to some of the people that I've kind of fangirled over, but was too shy to speak to last time. Or getting to talk to them and say, hey, guess what? Cheryl and I talked about you at ACR. Do you want to see? So, like, Novalia, I approached her and she was so shocked and excited. And I was like, here's the graphic we made for you. Would you like a copy? Why, yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And it was great to have that conversation with her, to let her know that patients are excited about what she's working on. And the other gal that I remember sitting down with was, let's see, was it Susan McLaughlin or Ellen Gravelis? We might have talked to both, didn't we?
Yes.
And getting to share with them, hey, we talked about you too. Here's the graphic we made. And we really like what you're working on and your research, linking inflammatory arthritis with cardiovascular disease. Keep going. We're cheering you on. We want to see where you're going to go with this. So those are kind of my 2 takeaways. All of you and them.
Community on both sides, the patient advocate side and the provider and researcher side. And I do want to say earlier, I mentioned that my impression was that the foundation funds doctors only, which I shouldn't say, that they fund people at various stages of research. So they fund doctors who want to become rheumatologists, but they also fund like PhD researchers. So it was funny, a few times we were talking to a researcher, let's say at their poster presentation, and I would accidentally say, oh, as a rheumatologist, what do you think? And they'll say, oh, I have a PhD in immunology, but I'm not a MD, like I'm not a doctor. So I actually find it really great to get people in a room who have different backgrounds and different frames of reference, because like a PhD researcher, from my understanding, is actually going to have more rigorous training in how to execute research versus the MD doctor rheumatologist is more on the clinical side of making the right decision for the patient based on that research. So it's just, for me, I just loved getting multiple voices heard, especially, the patient voice. And something else that really stood out to me, and I'm like the least cynical person ever, but I honestly have to say I was surprised, like at the end of the day, at one of the long days, I think it was the Thursday, what they did was different researchers would present their research in front of the whole group. And then after 3 or 4 of them would go, there would be a facilitated Q&A session. And in my past experience, usually people start dropping out as the day goes on because they're tired or they're hungry. I couldn't believe just how mentally sharp and excited and like into it the researchers still were at like 3 p.m., 4 p.m. they were lining up, and some of them were, I would say, senior, older people some of them were legends in rheumatology because I recognize them. They've been involved for, 30, 40 years. And just to me, it was so inspirational seeing people who are not burned out, because right now there are lots of reasons to be losing hope right now in research, especially. But like, this conference was like an antidote to hopelessness because they were excited, they were sharp, they were sharing ideas at the tables and figuring out, okay, how they would raise their hand and say something like, here, hey, have you thought about changing this about your research project to make it even better? And it wasn't like they were defensive, like, no, we can't do that. I was like, oh, thank you. I love that idea. Just that collaboration, that really stood out to me. So kind of wrapping up a little bit, is there anything else you each wanted to share about your experience, that you didn't get to share already? And we'll wrap up by saying maybe how people can get involved, because some people are listening, I know right now, and saying, wait, how do I get involved in this?
I think the only thing that I wanted to really share about it is kind of like what you're saying, the passion that these specialists still have for rheumatology is encouraging and has inspired me to continue my advocacy. I'm just excited to see what the future of the foundation has.
I think that probably my biggest takeaway and what I'll remember the most is that the level of collaboration that happens at this conference is bigger than anything I've seen before. It is so rare for researchers and rheumatologists and patients to stand under the same roof and listen to each other so openly and to obviously be helping one another to figure out these really big problems. I didn't see anybody react with hubris, which is one of the most common things in research that really stoppers things up, is thinking you know what you're knowing the answer to the questions. I saw so many people who were open to new answers. It gives me so much hope for what these people can do.
No more takeaways. I just want to say, like we all mentioned, I just want to say I'm grateful to the Rheumatology Research Foundation for allowing us this opportunity, for funding us the opportunity to go to Seattle so that we can voice the patients, voice, advocate for patients, and so that they can hear patient perspectives. Because oftentimes I feel the physicians that I've worked with, they can see the pain and they can see the pain that we're experiencing or acknowledge the pain, but they don't truly understand what it feels like to go through it. And so, yeah, they can prescribe you some medicine or, recommend these options. But sometimes, like, they recommend exercise or more weight bearing exercise to help your joints. But sometimes you can't exercise. So just hearing, like, the different strategies and everything from the conference, like, for example, when one of the physicians spoke about exercise and how it is used for OA and different like management options they're working towards. That was very impactful to see, like, from that, to see it presented at the conference.
I want to share about the fact that we're all appreciative, right? I'm just echoing a lot of that. The incredible people that work for the foundation, they care about everyone and they take the time to get to know every single one of us. I'd like to think that we want to get to know them too. So getting to go back a second time, I don't know about you and Stasha, but I feel like, I don't know, we're gaining that rapport. We're getting to know each other a little better. I want to remind people, if you have not signed up to be a Rheum Champion, please do so, because it's not about having all the answers. It's about wanting to make a difference. And so just do it.
Yeah, the only requirements for becoming a Rheum Champion are filling out this 5-minute form online, and then they will share your story on the Rheumatology Research Foundation website. I think over time they're still building the program, but the goal would be for them to give us Rheum Champions tasks for us to spread the word about what's going on with the foundation and how patients can get involved. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Jenny, because yeah, I think they want to hear as many diverse voices as they can.
I think the biggest thing was how excellent the Rheumatology Research Foundation is in terms of the good that they're doing for the field of rheumatology and how important it is to share that information with patients. That sometimes people feel very lonely in a little tiny bubble of, well, I see my doctor and I'm struggling with my symptoms. So to know not only is there an entire nonprofit foundation just raising money to advance research, to make sure that people have more access to rheumatologists, but also that there's so much of a community out there. And this is the positive side of the internet, where you can speak with other people, feel less alone, and have hope. Have hope that all this amazing research is going on, have hope that people will have better access to rheumatologists. So I think that the energy, the effort, the passion in the conference, and then how we can share all of that and bring everyone up at the same time was the takeaway that I left with.
I'm going to go in reverse order because earlier I shouted out the foundation, the Rheumatology Research Foundation, but now I'm going to shout out the 5 of you, because that for me really was a highlight, being able to spend time in person. We had an opportunity to, have like a formal dinner. And then we also had some just fun, like, oh, we have an hour, let's go to a bookstore together. And we ended up talking about our favorite books. And now we're going to do a little book club, and just those organic opportunities to connect. I'll have a shared identity as like chronic illness patients and rheumatic disease patients and Rheum Champions, but we also were able to connect on all these other things, like, oh, are you dairy free? I'm dairy free too, or gluten free. Which is your favorite romance book? And that's just, for me, that's therapeutic too. There's like direct ways of healing or feeling community of, let's talk about our illnesses, and then there's like indirect, like, let's connect on things that aren't related to our illness at all, and remember that we're human beings alongside everything. So again, I will say thanks to the foundation again for the supporting everyone's travel and lodging there. Because I'm a local, I was able to stay at home and just drive over, but they reimbursed my parking and stuff like that too. So we just really appreciate that. That's a lot of effort that they put into involving patients in the conference, and it's not done for all areas of medicine and research. It's often closed doors. Patients aren't not encouraged to be a part of it. So I really appreciate that. So Jenny already mentioned how to become a Rheum Champion. We'll both put the link for the application in the show notes. Is there anything else, Jenny, that you wanted to?
I want to give a little shout out to the t-shirt that Stasha's wearing, because we all got them. And if I would have been thinking, I could have suggested we wear them. Chelsea, you are wearing the hat, aren't you? Well, it was so good to catch up with all of you, and I look forward to us being able to do more of this, and I cannot wait for book club. Until next time, don't forget your spoon.